This is a brief tutorial about the Cognia Workspace. This is for accreditation for your school. These are the different areas that you have to complete. In each one, it opens up with these three dots, and you can say either download the report or open. You'll want to press open. When you go into open an item, it opens up, and most of these, this is kind of your progress along the side. They are hyperlinks, so you can get to get to a different section. With the standards, what it wants you to do is rate it, and then in the comments section to list the evidence for that particular standard. So that just this specific standard. And it's specifically the things that you have uploaded into the portfolio. So rather than including all the evidence that you have for the standard from in your entire school, really zero it in on the 3 to 5 pieces of evidence that you are willing to upload evidence for inside of your portfolio. And then these rationales, our reviewer wanted them to be fairly short, to be 2 to 4 sentences that explained why we felt these pieces of evidence matched the rubric for whatever we had rated ourselves. Once you get through a section, you go to where you do the key characteristic narrative. And depending on your reviewer, they may want it in a certain format. Our reviewer wanted us to list the evidence that was used in the standards for that section. So listing that evidence, listing all of the rationale. So this is copying the same information that was in these different text boxes into this text box. And then she wanted the prompts answered that were inside of the workbook. And so each key characteristic has got some prompts that are in certain, they're at the end of the section. And she wanted them listed as a heading and then write down the answer. And there's a lot of description in their workbook about writing a narrative and having it be, they don't look anything like this. And so it really, I would check with your reviewer. Then put down the findings, and you should have an area of excellence or noteworthy achievement and an area for 2 areas for improvement for each one of the 4 key characteristics. Write the root causes, even for the area of excellence, and then your theories of action. These are the things that you will then be responsible for doing by the next time you have accreditation. So total, there are the theories of action also are required for the surveys that you take from people, your stakeholder feedback. They're required for the Elliott observations that you do of classrooms, and they're required for the student performance, which is based on the summative test scores that you are looking at. So for each one of those areas, you are providing these 3 theories of action. It makes a total of 21 theories of action. These were some things that we did to keep it organized. We had an accreditation folder. These are the different analyses. So this is the Elliott observations and stakeholder feedback analysis, and then performance. And so in these documents, I made it with tabs, and I would take a section from the workbook, a section that was inside of this workspace, and I would say, I'm going to make a tab for that and then answer it in there. So for every space, every text box that they have with any information that they wanted included in that, it's listed over on the side. But that was a good way for us to keep track of what it was that we were putting where. The formatting does not carry over for the most part, especially bullet points. So I would not waste any time on doing bullet points, or you will be redoing them, because this workspace and these text boxes do not recognize and copy over format. Then inside, we have these three different analyses. We kept our assurances there, and then a couple of other things. We made the Elliott observations. I kept track of all the people in the faculty and when they signed up to do their Elliott observation. We had people sign up for them. We used a Google Calendar for people to sign up for appointments to do that. And then this is our master spreadsheet that has the majority of our information on it. So there's 4 hidden tabs that we put all of we broke up our faculty and said we'll have a culture of learning, leadership of learning, engagement of learning, and growth in learning, those 4 different groups. And we went through the standards assigned for each one of those and had that portion of the faculty rate it as in a jigsaw activity. And that's where we got the evidence. That's where we figured out what the evidence would be. This spreadsheet just then ended up being a lot more concise to say this is the standard. This was great for copy and pasting purposes, to be able to say the standard number plus the actual standard. I found that to be very helpful in writing out rationales. The level was there, and then the list of the evidence. And so this evidence is following the naming convention that our reviewer wanted us to follow. So, and it's probably standard across the board. So it's abbreviating the section, the standards that it's connected to. And so if these really long names just means that it's in a lot of standards, that we use that piece of evidence for that. So that's why it's called repeated evidence down here. So we figured out, okay, we're going to reuse the evidence as much as we possibly could. And then we made a theories of action master document so that we could keep track of our theories of action. And the only advice I have on that is to try to make it as doable as possible. Think about actionable things that you can do, SMART goals, but also take into account the existing programs that you already have. And so this document is just all of our theories of action. We have the areas of excellence versus areas of improvement, but I tried to go through bolding the most relevant pieces, and it helped me to think about who is going to be responsible for doing this thing, this thing that we're agreeing to do. Who is it that's going to be, and what will they be agreeing to do? And then there's a space for recording once that thing is done, or just some of the steps along the way. But it did help to then go through and be like, okay, this is just the instructional coaches doing this. This is just admin. This is the whole faculty. It's all the teachers. This is how we did all of our evidence. We kept it in a document. I just named it Evidence and Artifacts. And these are reports. So Alex, like all the different pieces, we then would say, here's a program description. This is the format that I preferred. A program description that explained what it was. It's got highlighted in it the standard that it is referencing. And then in the connections to the standards, it says specifically how this piece of evidence fits this standard at this rating level. And then you could include anything else that you wanted with it, links to things or screenshots. And that just seemed to be the easiest way to keep track of evidence and to make it in a format that we could then later share with people. So, and it also helped us just have it all in one place and have it very, very uniform. So then inside of the workspace, when you upload it, you are uploading it here into the portfolio. That's what the portfolio actually is. It's just where you're putting in evidence. And a couple of things that we learned along the way, you can say that you include evidence there, but there's not a requirement that you write in the comments you don't need to make a comment about it. And then at the bottom, you go through the adding a piece of evidence process, and it's just clicking there. You can do a link. If it's a link to something, make sure to have something in the description. And then remember, this name needs to fit this naming convention. It's got to be named that way. And then you have to tag it as one of these areas. And we used other a tremendous amount. And then you press upload. And so, ultimately we ended up with 41 pieces of evidence. Probably you could do more, but I think it's smart to meet with your team and decide how can we use repeat pieces of evidence to save yourself some time, and then focus on making really quality reports that justify your reasons for why you have things, why you're using it as a piece of evidence. Because I like to be organized, this is what the workspace looks like. It's got these different components in it. So I made a document that had that picture, and it was like, this is the links to all of our documents there, that so we could keep track of that. And I think that's the main thing. Those are the biggest takeaways from the process. Some of the Elliott observation takeaways were that leaving a little bit of feedback of positive things that you saw in the classroom was a great idea. I would not reference the specific places that people were marked down, because a lot of the things they're nebulous. They're hard to understand what it is that they're actually looking for, and they aren't as necessarily as helpful. But if you have teachers that want feedback after the observation, I'm the instructional coach in my building, I would use it as an opportunity to say, is there something specific that you would like me to come in and see? And I would be happy to share that, to give you that information, or to come and look for that. I've got different and more concise, better observation tools than this giant Elliott observation that isn't. It's a little nebulous in its nature. Yeah, and so keeping everything in its folder, great idea to keeps it there. I mean, this is just me being a time saver. I wrote down typical pieces of feedback so that I would be able to copy and paste that into there. And I planned out our calls with our reviewer so that we would have a really clear agenda for what it was that we were going to be talking to them about. And it even just saying like who's responsible for which part is a good idea. And that's pretty much it. But reach out if you have any questions or anything that would be helpful. I'm happy to do a tutorial with whatever is needed.